Hi there, this is Ellen Dubin, and you're listening to the FSF Popcast.
The show that behaves a lot like Emperor Palpatine. Just like Papa Palps, somehow we returned.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 137. She'll know that when she puts on the red shirt and joins the Gen Ambassador Sisterhood, gaining physical and mental powers, that she didn't leave her family destitute and without hope. Because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has her back, and what's left of the pain bars.
All right, guys, our guest today is an actress and voice actress whose talents you've seen, you've heard in movies, TV shows, and video games, such as Napoleon Dynamite, 2021's Dune. She was in Megan, The Elder Scrolls, Lego Star Wars, and a few other things. We are very happy and proud to welcome Ellen Dubin to the FSF podcast. Welcome to the show, Ellen.
Thank you, Tim and Nick. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent.
I can speak English right now. I'm so happy to have you, or you're having me right now. And you can ask me anything. And I'm not even, I'm just ready to go, ready and happy to be here.
Excellent. All right, so Ellen, you've had your chances to dip your toes, so to speak, in several different sandboxes in the sci-fi and fantasy worlds. The one that I'm probably most interested in, and now if I were at my normal studio, you'd see a wall of Funko Pops behind me. And tonight, I'm just displaying this lovely beat up and battered Death Star scene. So the one that I'm most interested about has to do with this. I'm a massive Star Wars fan. And so when I saw that you had something to do in the Star Wars universe, I was like, oh, we must talk. And so, ta-da, you said, yes, here we are. So you provided the world with the voice for Captain Phasma and a few others in the Lego Star Wars games and a few other games. You did some work in some other Star Wars projects as well. So I always like to ask the following question of anybody who's had something to do in Star Wars, okay?
Go for it.
All right. Were you a fan of Star Wars before you got started in the project? And if so, what was your entry point into the fandom?
I was never a fan of sci-fi when I started acting. So this is I didn't know much about it. Speaking of dipping your toes, I started in the ballet world. So that was a very interesting way you put the question. So I was in the dance world. So I wasn't in the sci-fi world. And then at the time I started acting on camera, there was a lot of sci-fi shows. So I started to go, oh, this is kind of cool. These parts are interesting. It's unique. It's fantastic. And then I started to see the world of Star Trek and Star Wars and all the rabid, fabulous fans and basically the most iconic shows ever done in the sci-fi world. And so when I booked my first Star Wars, I'm going to say, I won't talk about the video game. I'll talk more about Lego Star Wars and Star Wars Resistance. People were like, Ellen, you're now in the Star Wars world. And I actually started to freak out because I think to go from not really knowing about it to not really caring to, okay, this is pretty good. Oh my God, this is the pinnacle of sci-fi. You're in the most iconic. So I can now say I'm a member of the Star Wars family. And to do Lego Star Wars, which is Lego and Star Wars combined, which are two iconic brands, so to speak.
Yes.
And then do Star Wars Resistance and the other Star Wars. I mean, they were sort of more TV specials. That's what they called them, the first ones, before I did the Star Wars Resistance. I am absolutely over the moon now. So yeah, I'm converted. I believe.
All right, cool. So what is it? So it sounds like it's very important to you, but what does it mean to you? Like when I talk to people and they ask me what Star Wars means to me, I'm going to use a saying that I can use because Kathleen's not here tonight and she can only mock me after the fact.
Exactly.
So we have a third co-host who's typically here with us, but her little girl got sick and then she got sick. So so Kathleen is down with a head and chest cold right now. So she probably sounds like a 1930s gangster. But at least that's how I'm envisioning it anyway. But anyway, she always makes fun of me, gives me a hard time because I always say that I tell people that when they say, well, how important is Star Wars to you? I'm like, well, Star Wars is like my marriage. It's there for me in good times and bad, sickness and in health.
Wow.
So, do you have any thoughts along that line? What does Star Wars mean to you now that you've been converted and you're a believer?
It gives me a tremendous sense of pride. And I think this is the top, this is like the icing on the cake for me to be cast, because everybody wants to be cast in anything that says Star Wars. So I think it gives me sort of a little feather in my cap. I do feel proud that I was able to book this, because you're competing against mega A-listers for this kind of project. So, and I feel really honored and grateful to be cast. So it's a combination of pride, honor, and being grateful. And I can say now, and among other projects, that I am now part of history, sci-fi history, truly. So that's
yeah, absolutely. No, that's an awesome answer. And yeah, I mean, if I were a voice actor and I had a chance to do anything in the Star Wars universe, if Dave Filoni came to me and said, "Hey, I'm starting a new animated series, and I just need you to say 3 lines as Biff the janitor, would you do it?" Yes. Just pay me lunch. You don't have to give me money. Just give me lunch and let me say that I'm in Star Wars somewhere. You have no idea how excited that I would be over that. I would never stop smiling.
Exactly. The name carries a lot of weight.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they really know. People say, I'll just sit there and go beep, 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 beep. Yeah, that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you feel that having been in Star Wars, that it has opened up other roles for you?
Yeah, it has. It's a great credit on your resume, and the person who casts for Lucas, all that stuff, Lucas, Disney, Marvel, it's all connected and people are listening. And yeah, it's a great resume credit for sure. And obviously you have to do a good job. People forget that there's always people listening. That audition, I want to tell your listeners that if they're interested in acting or voice acting, just because you don't book a specific job, they're always listening. How I book Star Wars is very interesting. Somebody heard me in a class. Lindsay Perlman, who casts all of the Star Wars shows. I was taking a class in video game acting, and she heard me. And 2-3 years later, she said, "Okay, you're going to be cast as this part, Captain Phasma, in Lego Star Wars, and then Star Wars." And I went, "I don't do sound alikes. It's my least favorite voiceover for me. I have friends who could listen, to an actor and get them right away. I don't feel like I have a particular skill in it, but apparently I do, because there's a few others I do." But anyway, she had such a good ear. And what made me feel really good is when I initially did my first Captain Phasma, the sound engineer who did Star Wars movie with her in it said, "You sound exactly like her." And I went, "Oh," because when you're doing somebody, and she's such an incredible actor. I mean, I'm such a fan of hers from Game of Thrones. You want to do not only Star Wars justice, you want to do the actress justice. So I had a double weight on me. So the fact that I convinced people, or however I did it, that it was this, her, and you put in your own nuances, but there's definitely, when you're doing an iconic character that's already established, there are markers you have to follow. There are things that I had to honor, voice-wise, presence-wise, feeling-wise, and all they sent me was an interview with Gwendolyn Christie on, I think, one of those late night shows, because they wouldn't show me the footage from the movie, and they didn't have it at the time. So I was kind of struggling in the dark, because just because somebody's doing an interview like I'm doing now doesn't mean I'm going to sound the same as Captain Phasma. But I picked up a few nuances, and I was able to, and then with their help, because they were very, very specific, because the Star Wars fans, speaking of Star Wars fans, they know everything. They know every breath. They know every word. So you really have to be on your game. Yeah,
A little
yeah.
picky. A little picky.
But
I'm not. I'm a
anyway,
All
Star
right,
Wars
that
fan, but not, I'm not that
that was a
picky.
segue for your listeners, just to, you never know when somebody's listening, and a job, an audition, or something you did 2 years ago could come back several years later. You're building that house foundation. So I just wanted to tell your listeners that it's really important.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great advice.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads into my other question that I have. So you are a member of Women in Film and Television, Women in Animation. Like, there's a big long list of a lot of things that you're a society of. And I know Kathleen would ask this question because of her 4-year-old. What advice would you like to give to the younger generation into either getting into voice work or acting, or how do you think they could launch off of that?
Great question. I think I'm going to save people a lot of time and effort and years here by just saying, it's interesting in the acting field, we're always running away from ourselves, trying to be something different. And yet, it's all the things that the teacher told you not to do in school. It's all the weird quirks, like if you're going on camera, it's the fact that, one shoulder's higher than the other, or you're 9 feet tall, or 70 feet wide, or you've got 42 noses, or whatever. All your quirks and your idiosyncrasies are what make you special and will get you the job. It's more about you putting yourself into the roles, whether it's on camera or voice wise, and more, because I teach video game voiceover acting. People are always coming in and going, "Hi there, my name is Suthius Mosmoothius." And I'm like, no, let me hear you just say that in your own voice. And that's what gets you cast initially. How you connect to the material, the relationships you create, and all your quirks and fabulousness of yourself. So I would tell people, don't run away from yourself. Try and focus on being yourself. I know it sounds really corny, but it is true, true, true. They can hear it, they can see it in an audition if you're on camera like we are now, or if I wasn't on camera and you just heard me, you can feel when someone is trying to put on something phony. And we all do that. We all think, what do they want? I'm not enough. This is what it is, guys. Here's the secret. You are enough. I am enough. Whether you're, no matter what you sound like, because it's not really what you sound like that's important, or look like. It's not.
I think it's a fantastic answer, honestly. We've had a couple of other people we've asked a similar question to in the past, and a couple of them had similar answers, and I think the thing that stood out to me was in each person that's answered this, they've each said something similar to the effect of, it's not about how many silly voices you can do. It's not about, because when everybody thinks voiceover, that's I think the first thing that many people think is, oh, I have to have this backpack full of different voices, and I have to be able to do all these different things. Even though I'm not going to be on camera, I just have to have the voices. But they haven't gone to study the acting. They haven't gone to study done all the different things that lead up to that point of getting that job, booking that job. And then there's the confusion of, well, why do they want to hear me? Why do they, how come I have all these great voices. Why don't they want to hear those? And I think that was a comment that we had somebody else make, was that, when you go into an audition, don't come in, trying to spit a bunch of lines at them in all these different voices. Just come in and talk and be you and present yourself, and then talk about the role. Because if they don't like you, it doesn't matter how many voices you have.
Exactly. And also, listen, there are times where you're going doing some crazy character or whatever, or some crazy animal, but it all comes from your guts and your soul and your heart. And we can always layer. You can make yourself sound, that you're more raspy or higher and squeakier, or you're a mouse and you're afraid. But why is the mouse afraid? I mean, if you really just play a general being afraid or being strong, then it becomes a generalization. And then the voice is like this: if I'm strong, if I'm afraid, I'm like this. But why are you afraid? What is the reason? And if you have an actual, it's called, an objective in acting, then it's more connected to you, or else it just becomes, you cannot play an adjective as an actor. If you do, it's just be a generalization. There's a nice tip for all you upcoming actors.
Not Play an adjective.
No, think about it. If you, let's say I tell you right now, play angry, you're gonna go, I'm mad. I'm happy. Those are the worst kind of types where you're just playing a general thing. Why are you happy? You're happy. You might be giggling all the time. My happy might be, oh yeah, this is not, it's nice, and I'm a little shy to tell you about it, but I'm really happy to be here, or whatever, You.
That's cool. I think that's great advice. I think many times in life, I think we try too hard to be something else for someone else, even outside of acting in general. I'm talking about
100% in life. I agree completely. We don't think that we're enough. We think we're boring, or in anything. In an interview, with talking with our friends, everybody in the world has a mask. What I've
sure.
talk to you will be different than how I talk to my mother or my brother or a salesperson in a store. We all play roles every day, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So hey, that you're just like setting them up, and we're just so you're leading us right into our next question. This is great. It's like you have a copy of our notes. It's fantastic.
Don't I
don't. All right, so Ellen, being an actor, whether on camera or behind camera, gives you the opportunity to play different characters, creatures, people from all different walks of life, even universes, because of where some of the things that you've done. But for you personally, what has been the most difficult character role for you to take on, for you to learn how to portray, and why?
Wow. Okay, I always go with the first thing that comes to my mind. So
yeah, please.
I did a mini series for ABC and Disney called A Wrinkle in Time, which is based on a very famous book, a Madeleine L'Engle. And I
love
played
that book.
It's a great book, and it's very it's an iconic book, actually.
Yeah.
And again, about the Tesseract, and a sort of a sci-fi element as well, and but an incredible message. And I played a character named Ant Beast, and Ant Beast was blind, and it was a 200 and something pound, kind of looked like Chewbacca.
Right.
And the physicality of that, I will never badmouth Doug Jones. I love you. Prosthetic actors, he's a friend. Prosthetic actors, again, because I've got people who wear prosthetics, because I've got to tell you, it is absolutely excruciating to be masked up, prosthetic up. I was in makeup at 3:30 in the morning, finished at about 9 a.m. I had 4 arms, so I was like puppeting my own arms. I had about 9 feet, like my feet were huge, and I looked like it was hair from head to toe with these big lips. I literally, when I ate, I had to be fed pineapple on a toothpick, and I was so afraid, excuse me, everybody, to go to the bathroom, because to get everything off took 4 undressers, and I would literally sit still with an ice pack on the back of my neck. They would take the head part a little bit. They could open up the back part. There was like a slit in the back, and they had a vacuum. I sat in this kind of freezer area, this vacuum with this hose there. So I would say that was the most difficult physically for me. If you go to IMDb, you can check out the pictures, and you will not believe. And I was not only blind, and I had these huge feet. I also had to be very graceful. So I was a ballet dancer, but I'm telling you, when you're in Chewbacca's outfit and you got these arms and you can't see in this huge, and all the prosthetics were covered with hair. So I had to have people walk me around the set, and literally we had to block it so carefully so I wouldn't trip over the children. I would say that was the most challenging physically for me. Emotionally is a different challenge.
Correct.
So emotionally, it would have to be an audiobook that I just finished. It wasn't on camera. A very heavy audiobook called Dance Me to the End, 10 Months and 10 Days with ALS, about a woman whose husband's diagnosed with a terminal disease, and ALS is a horrific disease. And
yes, it is.
That emotional journey of her journey. And I had a similar journey in my life. took everything out of me. I literally, when I would leave the studio, I'd sit in my car to drive home and I would literally collapse. So, because it was so, I wanted to do justice to her words, but I'd also been through the same journey. So that's the most recent emotional challenge I've had. So those are two opposite ends of the spectrum, but both exhausting and challenging for me. But very good question. Yeah.
Honestly, I was actually really glad that you chose Ant Beast, because that was part of the reason why I asked the question.
Oh.
So I was looking through your stuff on IMDb, and I was like, oh, Ant Beast. Bet you that was fun. So I was kind of hoping you'd talk about that a little bit.
Oh.
So yeah, so that was
17-hour days. Interesting, Tim, we're connecting psychopathically here. So it was about a 17-hour day. And, I talked to Doug about it. We did a pilot together called Nobility. And I said, I don't know how you do this. I always admired your work because I think you're a phenomenal actor, and he truly is. And I will never, I have a newfound appreciation for that kind of work, because you have to also project, and I guess having theater training really helps, because you have to project past that mask and all that hair and all that prosthetic. And, the skin, when you take that off, you just want to, I said to Doug, aren't you want to pull your skin off? He said, oh yeah, you end up a dermatologist. You're just, yeah, it's really something. And even though I had the prosthetics, and I had a big fat suit too. And the guy, this is very interesting. I wish I had his name. And he did all the prosthetics for Platoon. So all the arms that were cut off and all the limbs and this guy, I said, you've gone from Platoon to Ant Beast, but he was he was so knowledgeable about prosthetics. We had a great team on that movie, a really great team. This is the mini series before the Oprah one.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you.
No, very cool.
And now, a word from our show sponsor, Level Up Sabers. Their link can be found in the show notes.
Welcome back to the FSF Popcast.
So certainly you've had a lot of projects, and various projects have found a special place in your heart. But was there one project that was close to your heart that didn't quite get as much love as you were hoping it would get?
The one that I loved, I have to say, is my first major sci-fi job, was a series called Lex, which was kind of the forerunner of a lot of wacky kind of Doctor Who, sort of a British, German, Canadian production, a tri-pro, I guess you'd call that. And it was just before Farscape. It was just before social media became really big. So what I'm upset about for the show, because it's so weird and wacky, and even if you didn't like it, you would never forget it, LEXX, and I think it's now on various streaming services. I kind of was upset about that, and fans are now discovering it now, and they go, why didn't we hear about this? So I wish there would have been more social media at that time. It was before that, and I think it's one of those projects that I think could have had a lot more of a run at a fan base earlier on,
Gotcha.
what was going on. And it was kind of ahead of its time. And the first 4 movies of the week, we had Rutger Hauer, we had Tim Curry, we had Barry Bostwick, and the 4th one was Malcolm McDowell. So we had some high-profile, interesting men who had done major sci-fi stuff. Anyway, if you haven't had a chance to see it, I played Jiggerada the Wicked, who was the comic relief. I was a cannibal that basically ate everything in sight and sort of gave the leading man a lot of trouble, followed him around and terrorized him in a comedic way. So I think that's what it was. I wish it would have had more press,
Okay.
Well, I will definitely go check that out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime right now, so you can watch it there.
Oh wow! Thank you for telling me. Oh, it's out there, and there's a lot of double entendres. Like the last episode was called Apocalypse Now, and it spoofed Apocalypse Now and Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, and some very interesting references. The producer of the show is he's a genius. He's a genius. So Paul Donovan, who created the show. So check it out. Check it out.
Yeah, looks great. Okay. All right. So Ellen, I typically ask this question of people very early on in our interviews, but there was important Star Wars business that I had to address with you first and foremost. So this question got pushed to the end. So now that the Star Wars business has been attended to, I feel better. I know more about my new Star Wars friend. I can ask this. Because Nick and I and Kathleen are nerds, we love origin stories. We always like to find out more about the person that we're talking to. So in your story, could you tell us how it is that Ellen got involved in the entertainment industry and what keeps her coming back?
I got involved in the entertainment industry because of flat feet and being unconfident and being very shy. My parents put me in ballet class because my feet, I had no arches, and I was this geeky, gawky kid, and I had no confidence. And she put me into ballet class, and my dad would drive me every weekend. And at the end of each term, there'd be a recital on the stage. And on the stage is where I learned to love live audiences. When there was a dramatic ballet and there was the dying swan, I would always die an extra 5 beats. When it was a comedy ballet, I naturally waited for it, the laugh. And my ballet teacher at the time, which at the time devastated me, she said to me, "You're never going to be a ballet dancer. You're going to be an actress." And at the time, I cried because I wanted to be a ballet dancer. But now at 9'9", it's probably better that I'm not a ballet dancer. And plus, my knees gave out at 20 years old. So,
Oh yeah, there's that.
yeah, the knees, it's not a good career for knees, but it's still my favorite. And so, a long story short, it's because of being unconfident kid in the ballet recitals. And then I ended up doing a lot of stage and musicals, and moved to Los Angeles and did, movies and television in Canada and the US, because I'm a dual citizen of both countries. And what keeps me coming back is that adrenaline, that love of inspiring people, making them laugh, making them cry, scaring the shit out of them or the poop out of them. It just, and I love the fans, and it's a great distraction in our world to entertain people more than ever. We all need an escape. We all need to identify, not only escape, we all need to root for different characters. So it keeps me going to know that I keep other people going more than ever. I think entertainment is vital in our life right now. Vital.
I think that's an awesome answer, especially where we've been over the last couple of years. Had it not been for entertainment, had it not been for me personally, had it not been for doing this show and having the opportunity to talk to people and sit across the table from awesome people like you and have these conversations, the padded room I would be in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we all would. We'd all be in the straitjacket.
For sure. And I'm so grateful that we had the streaming, that we were at the time in in life that we were, so we had streaming services, and I could keep myself entertained with those things during the day, and I had opportunity to talk with people at night, and there was all these different things going on, even during quarantine, even during all that stuff. So I very much understand, and your answer resonates so deeply with me, because I love that. I love the fact that we haven't talked to an answer yet or an actor yet where they're like, yeah, I'm just here for the paycheck.
Or you have one person say he had a mortgage, but
well, yeah, but that was only about one particular project he took. He's like, yeah, I didn't have anything else going. I needed to make the mortgage that month.
Let me tell you something. If you're in it for the paycheck, you're in the wrong business.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Really.
But it's really very cool to me when we hear answers like yours, where it's, I do this because I know it entertains other people, and that's what keeps me going. That's more than just a love for it. That's a passion, and then that speaks on a whole lot of different levels, and I think that's really just amazingly cool. So
I love it.
Mhm. And speaking of stories and entertainment, we have a Facebook group that has over 211,000,
yes.
and it's just filled with memes. And a lot of times these memes come from different places and things. But what was something that happened behind set or on set but off camera? Behind set? I don't know. That seemed weird.
Behind
That
the
felt
scenes.
weird. Yeah, that's it. Behind the
I knew
scenes.
what you meant.
And what was something that happened behind the scenes that felt meme worthy, or that would be something that you just captured and thought was hilarious?
Here's my first instinct. I open up the door. I see John Heater standing there with his curly hair and those teeth that he put in. Is Trisha here? That's a meme. When if you know my face, and only people who know me really well, I literally, it's the first time I saw him on that first take. I literally bit my tongue to get through it. The first part of the scene, because I think it was bleeding. I was laughing so hard because what a character Napoleon is. I have to say that as an answer. The first time he opened the door and said, "Is Trisha?" And I looked at him as Ellen, because I'm Ellen, not Eileen, or whatever. I went, oh God, how am I going to get, there's this little thing on your shoulder sometimes that talks to you as an actor, and you have to try and get rid of it. But I'm like, okay, am I going to get through? I'm literally biting my tongue and it's going to bleed so that's it. That would be a great meme. Yeah.
Which show was that?
Holy and Dynamite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I have to go rewatch that one because
Yeah. He was brilliant, brilliant. Always in character and just hard not to crack up. And I have really good discipline for that because I've been in plays in the theater where I worked with some particular actors who try and crack you up in the middle of the play. Tremendous amount of breathing and discipline.
All right, Ellen, one final question, and we call this our silly question. You can answer this as serious or as silly as you see fit. Okay?
Go for it.
All right. If animals were able to talk, which one would be the rudest?
A chimpanzee.
Why?
Because it would whack you in the face, throw the banana peel in your face, and kiss you at the same time. There you go.
Hey, good answer. All right.
That's a great question. I love your questions. You guys are hilarious. And you do
thank you.
research too at the same time. Comedy and research, my favorite combo platter in interviews. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Combo platter. I feel like there's a joke in there somewhere, but I can't find it.
I'm usually a couple things short of a combo platter, so it doesn't matter.
That's why we're doing this, right?
Exactly.
We have to all be a little crazy and nerdy to do this. Right?
Absolutely.
Well, Ellen, thank you so much for being on our show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you and your works?
Okay, let's do the social media thing first. Ellen Dubin Actor on my Facebook fan page, at Ellen Dubin Actor on Instagram, ellendubin.com website where everything is up to date on there. You can go to your streaming services and watch me do the home AI in the new horror movie, Megan. You can go and watch Dune Part 1. I can't tell you about Part 2 yet, on streaming services. And you can go and probably, I think 65 is now on streaming services with Adam Driver. I play his handheld device and his voice of his ship. Turning Red is still on streaming services, so that's really prominent still.
Yeah.
For some video games, I can't tell you right now, unfortunately. What else do I have? Oh, I did this really interesting sci-fi pilot called The Time Is Right. Check the website. It is a time travel.
Okay.
It's about a game show. And in the game show, the host takes the contestant back in time. But there's certain stipulations and rules that they must follow, but some of the people don't follow the rules, including the showrunner of the show I play. So I'm doing some very bad things that might ruin.
All right.
It's a very interesting show. Did I miss anything? I don't think so right now. The Desperate Hour is on Netflix right now, opposite Naomi Watts. It's a movie directed by Philip Noyce, and it's all phone calls, phone conversations. And I play the main hostage negotiator, talking Naomi Watts through the situation that's going on in her son's school. The last 10 minutes is riveting. It's really a really interesting movie. He did Dead Calm. Remember that movie, Dead Calm?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was interesting to work with him.
Very cool.
And, I've got a cartoon called Bakugan. It's like an anime cartoon.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure where that's on. I'm playing a new kind of evil bee, getting in people's business. And that's it. Just and
All right.
I am very good at responding to people's emails. Gigarata 100, which was the name of my character in Lex. GIGGEROTA 100 at AOL.com. Don't laugh. Gigarata 100 at AOL.com. No smirking and no hee-hees. Gigarata 100 at AOL.com. If you have any questions, and if you forget it, it's on my IMDb, direct contact. I answer every single email that somebody sends me. Any question? I believe if a fan can take the time, I can take the time at 4 a.m. when I have time. So, and I mean it. Ask anything.
All right, cool.
I just pictured you in that beast suit. Mother Beast, was it?
And
You know, on your laptop, just like...
I got the time.
Go look at a picture of Gigarata. I've got the head of a person that I've eaten on my back. It's quite something. Yeah, go and check that out. It's on my website, I think, too. So thank you.
Cool.
Guys. Thank you so much. And this has been an absolute pleasure tonight.
Awesome. I want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help our show continue to grow. It helps us to ensure that we get more amazing guests like Ellen Dubin here and have these great conversations with amazing people for you to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It helps us more than you'll ever really know. And Ellen just listed off a whole bunch of really cool things. You'll find those down in the show notes down below, and all her social media links. We'll have all those down there for you guys to be able to check out her work as well. But if you're not happy with the content of our show today for whatever reason, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is Captain Phasma. Now, please submit 3 copies of your complaint form to the First Order. Attention, Captain Phasma. Truthfully, she only needs 1 copy, but you know how the First Order likes to have things just laying around, extra copies of things. We're looking at you, Papa Palpatine, for that one. Anyway, be sure that Phasma will spare no mercy in doling out the punishment to the podcast or podcasters who have offended you with their lack of skill. She'll be more than happy to handle us and our issues, although we aren't sure why she keeps calling us rebel scum. Oh well, just be nice in the reports. She might come after you too, if you catch her on the wrong day.
Rebel scum.
Yes. Day made. Okay.
Well, thanks again, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen.
And you'll let me know when this is on so I can spread the word.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for the FSF Podcast. Goodbye.
Ciao.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF Podcast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSFPopcast, or go to www.fsfpopcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.
Copyright 2023 FSF Podcast.
Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Popcast. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com. Original music by Jordan Michaels.